Master, I must caution you against tampering with the events of any of the worlds we visit.
Data were not Marvel's watchers, bound by creed to just watch over the Aniverse and tell the tales of these MCs to the masses and not really, and I mean really, get into the story firsthand.
Please adhere to the rulebook code, especially considering the potential consequences.
This tale begins with the solemn image of Vikir van Baskerville's head, resting upon the guillotine, facing unjust accusations of associating with the demon clan despite his unwavering loyalty to the Baskerville family. In the shadows of his impending demise, I, a mysterious figure, presented him with a tempting offer for a second chance at life. However, this resurrection would not restore him as a mere hound. Instead, I proposed a unique twist. I would transport him back to a time before these dire events, and he would re-enter the world with the memories of his previous life intact. In this new iteration, I would be the one pulling the strings, steering the course of his destiny while he retained full recollection of his past. Facing the inevitability of his execution, Vikir, driven by the allure of a different fate, agreed to my enigmatic terms. As the blade descended upon him, I activated Data's quantum leap, propelling us both back to the very beginning, where the threads of his life would unravel once more.
Suddenly, I awoke in a cradle, disoriented and bewildered. The surroundings were chaotic, and my body felt foreign, prompting thoughts of being in hell. The nursery I found myself in echoed with the cries of numerous children. But why the hell am I a child? I could understand if I was an adolescent, but Data when I said take me back to the beginning. I didn't mean fresh out his mother as the beginning.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't end up materializing in the middle of childbirth. Can you imagine the chaos? Doctor, congratulations. It's a time traveler.
Data, if I find out you could have controlled this leap, I'm going to fill your hard drive full of Disney Star Wars and amp your human emotion circuits up to 11.
I'm not pulling a Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky on you, Master.
Somehow I feel you're doing this to teach me a lesson, but anyway. Hugo Le Baskerville, the patriarch of the family, moved about the room, inspecting each cradle. He callously dismissed the cries of other children as insignificant, even labeling them as trash. However, when he approached my cradle, he noticed my unusual silence. Hugo, in his authority, ordered my transfer to the Cradle of Swords. Lying there, I gazed up at Hugo with a profound hatred in my eyes, fully aware that he was the mastermind behind the false charges and Vikir's subsequent execution. Vikir had undergone training to become a faithful servant. Loyalty to the family and particularly to Hugo, his fidelity led to a death sentence. The motive behind his execution was clear. He knew too much. He swore vengeance. Yet, in my infantile form, I felt powerless. The transfer to the Cradle of Swords, however, presented an opportunity for me to grow stronger. Born into the Baskerville family, the children faced a daunting trial known as the Cradle of Swords. This intricate maze of blades served as their initiation, and success meant reaching the Styx River for the transformative examination. The Styx River turned our bodies into iron, yet its effects were limited to a certain number of children. Speed was of the essence, and navigating the helix-shaped wall of blades to reach the Styx River first was a formidable challenge. I unexpectedly tumbled into the Styx River. The water infiltrated my cuts, inflicting agonizing pain, yet I knew endurance was crucial. Meanwhile, Hugo observed with anticipation, consulting the head butler on the time elapsed since my entry into the river. 7 minutes, but Hugo beckoned me to surface. I continued absorbing the Styx River's essence, resolved not to relinquish this chance easily. Water entering my mouth, I urged myself to endure. The brink of drowning loomed, yet I knew I must persist. Just as it seemed I might succumb, Hugo arrogantly yanked me from the water. He inquired about my name, learning it was Vikir van Baskerville. A smirk played on Hugo's lips as he dubbed me a very greedy son. In my semi-conscious state, determined to hone my canines in secret, the time would come to exact revenge, and I vowed to be the architect of the Baskerville family's disappearance into history. I awoke in a nursery, realizing that I had successfully absorbed the Styx River.
Master, just to keep you in the loop, Vikir is still fully aware of all your shenanigans while you're hitching a ride in his body. We wouldn't want any memory gaps or unexplained experiences once you decide to leap out.
Data, you're sounding more like one of those systems from those system-based stories.
Well, unlike with those series, I can only give you access to Vikir's memories and past experiences muscle memory.
The door creaked open, and a maid entered. The maid departed after placing a box on my bed, and upon opening it, I was startled to find 2 venomous mambas inside.
Master, I must also inform you that if Vikir was to die, you would die too, as I don't have enough power to leap you out of his body.
What? Why are you telling me something as important as that now? Fuck it. How long is it going to take for you to recharge the quantum leap?
Well, till you're able to learn and use aura. So that way I will have the necessary energy to start the recharge.
I'm going to fry your hard drive if I survive this. As the mambas hissed threateningly, I seized them with my bare hands. fueled by Vikir's burning hatred that vowed to bring down the entire Baskerville family. The next day, the shocking discovery of me peacefully sleeping beside the lifeless vipers rocked the Baskerville community. Despite the execution of all the nannies who were on duty that night, the reason for the vipers' presence remained a mystery. 8 years later, I found myself in class, absorbing the teachings of swordsmanship. Astonishment filled the room as the teacher revealed that Sir Hugo, the strongest of the Baskervilles, held the title of a sword master. The revelation left all the students, myself included, in a state of surprise and disbelief. I was lost in thought and felt the need to regain the power he had prior to his regression before the coming-of-age ceremony. The teacher noticed my distracted state and thought highly of me, and that the patriarch would be very happy to know about my progress. As I was lost in thought about how many years I needed to kill Hugo, I didn't notice the triplets giving me an evil look after class. After class was over, they pushed me into one of the empty rooms and started mocking me, calling me garbage van, and talked about the rumors about how I dove in the Styx River and strangled 2 vipers to death when he was just a baby.
Master, I recognized the triplets as the ones who had stabbed Vikir in the past when he was running away after the defamation. They were known as Hugo of Baskerville's Trident, and their names were Highborough of Baskerville, Middleborough of Baskerville, and Lowborough of Baskerville, all 9 years old.
Really now? So that means they're fair game and long overdue for a bit of payback then. The triplets continued to taunt me, thinking that they were going to be a real pain in the ass in just 10 years and that it might be a good idea to put them in their place now. One of them brandished a knife and went on about a rumor he had heard, that if you stayed in the Styx River for long enough, your body would become like steel and you would be impervious to injury from blades. The other 2 triplets eagerly echoed their agreement, while the third gave the order for one of the others to hold me still. My mouth was covered by one of them and said I could bite his hand if I endure this for 3 minutes. I played along with this cruel game for a moment. 1 minute passed, 3 minutes passed, 10 minutes passed, but I remained unscathed, and the triplets began to realize that the legend they had heard was true. As the triplet holding me let go, he noticed blood on his hand and realized that his finger was missing. I then spat out the triplet's finger from my mouth.
Master, biting off one of his fingers is going a bit too far.
How so? A deal's a deal. The triplet was shocked and asked me what I was doing. I reminded the triplet of his promise to eat his own hand. Meanwhile, the other 2 triplets were trying to calm down the situation and suggested that they go to a priest to put the finger back. But I was not interested in that and instead responded by saying who said they could go. The triplet then attacked me with a knife. I did not dodge the attack and allowed the knife to stick, but to the triplet's surprise, it could not pierce my skin. I twisted the triplet's hand and reminded them that they had forgotten that they were in Baskerville. Here, power and talent overcome age. I suggested that we continue playing until the end. I twisted the triplet's hands mercilessly, causing him to cry out in pain. The triplets, terrified, looked at each other in shock. I punched the triplet, knocking him to the ground, while the other 2 watched in disbelief. The third triplet attacked me in a fit of anger, but I kicked him in the face, sending him crashing down to the ground. I stood over them, cold and unfeeling. I told them they would get better with treatment, but I also made it clear that I would be generous and allow one of them to leave. The triplets were surprised and relieved to hear this, and asked which one could leave. I picked up a knife and threw it in front of the triplets, telling them that they would have to decide for themselves who would leave the room. Then I started to leave, but not before turning back and issuing a stern remark that I won't wait long, so decide quickly.
Master, either you're relishing the role of playing the villain while still being the hero, or Vikir is exerting a strong influence on your actions.
Who knows? But what I do know is that I'm going to play my part to the fullest extent. I'm going to be Heath Ledger's Joker in this world. Beyond the closed door of the Patriarch's office, the head butler delivered news to my father that I had secured the highest score in the written exam, setting the stage for the impending practical exam. However, John hesitated. Hugo inquired about casualties. John reassured him that there were none but detailed the injuries sustained by the trio. While physical recovery had occurred, my father questioned the disharmony among the closely knit young masters. John then revealed the source of the discord: me. I had not only wounded the trio, but also topped the written exam. Patriarch Hugo decided to address the matter directly. Summoning me to his office, he prepared to unravel the complexities surrounding my actions and the turmoil I had sown among the young masters.
Master WB, I crafted this mindscape to enable interaction between you and Vikir. It seems that Hugo's imposing presence has unsettled Master Vikir.
Vikir, what are you doing? Unlike in the past, your killing intent threatens to unravel all the efforts I've invested over these years. I must caution you that my quantum leap ability has been restored, so if you push us toward premature death, I won't hesitate to make my exit.
I apologize, WB, but being a passive observer has left me restless. Watching everything unfold like a dream eventually became maddening, prompting me to awaken from that slumber. I understand the agreement with you taking the driver's seat, but I propose a partnership where I'm not relegated to the back of the you would say, bus. With me in the passenger seat, I believe our merger will significantly enhance our strength and speed, leading to an even stronger fighting ability.
Master WB, I possess the ability to create a temporary fusion between the two of you. This fusion would be akin to Vegeta or Gogeta from Dragon Ball. However, Master Vikir, I must caution you that utilizing this fusion will impose a significant toll on your mental energy, potentially leading to a return to that slumber until you regenerate. To effectively use this fusion in combat, both of you will need time to acclimate and synchronize your abilities.
Fuck it. Not like I got anything to lose besides having another voice in my head. Patriarch Hugo couldn't help but acknowledge the growth I had undergone since our last meeting. The conversation shifted to the incident involving the 9-year-old triplets in my senior class. I explained that they had received proper medical treatment. However, Hugo redirected the discussion, delving into the realm of emotional damage rather than physical disabilities. He articulated how my actions had torn apart the brothers' relationship and questioned whether I believed what I did was wrong. In response, I posed my own question, challenging Hugo to specify what exactly I had done wrong. Patriarch Hugo pointed out the emotional wreckage I had left in my wake, turning the brothers' lives into chaos. Undeterred, I maintained a confident gaze with my crimson eyes, asserting that strength was on my side. The unspoken implication lingered. How could the stronger person be considered wrong? Patriarch Hugo seemed utterly captivated by the unfolding situation, his enthusiasm akin to that of a starved child presented with a great feast. Seizing the initiative, Vikir took the lead, playing into the dramatic flair of the moment. The sudden surge of our combined presence, driven by the fusion or soul resonance of our two souls while spouting words he loved to hear, forced Hugo to suppress a burgeoning smile. He then embarked on an unexpected discourse regarding the concept of forgiveness, and I couldn't help but question. They forgave me? In a sardonic twist of fate, I regurgitated the very words he had once spoken to a forgiving nun, driving home the point. Forgiveness is but an excuse of the weak who lack the strength to seek revenge. While expounding on the significance of strength and retribution, Hugo nodded in evident approval, his eyes agleam with shared sentiment. He then turned his attention to the head butler, Barrymore, and in an act of unusual generosity, granted me unrestricted access to the food storage, permitting me to help myself to an ample supply of snacks. Filled with a sense of gratitude, I opted for chocolates. As I departed the scene alongside the head butler, Hugo took a familial tone, addressing me as his son and offering words of encouragement for the imminent evaluation. He stressed the importance of performing commendably and urged me not to falter in comparison to the direct descendants. Though I acknowledged his advice, my countenance concealed a deeply rooted hatred, born from Vikir's lingering emotions, now coexisting within my subconscious. Journeying toward the storage room in the company of the head butler, he began to regale me with information about the chocolates. He elucidated that these confections represented the highest quality of chocolate ever acquired by the Morg clan. However, I interjected abruptly, revealing my preference for unprocessed cacao beans renowned for their rich aroma. The head butler, somewhat taken aback by my distinctive request, sought further clarification. My determination to obtain the cacao beans remained unwavering, and I requested that they be promptly procured for me.
Master, it's worth noting that a solitary cacao bean has the potential to yield a staggering 100 liters of chocolate. If your intent in obtaining these beans is to recover from the repercussions of your soul residence, I would advise seeking a more suitable remedy, perhaps in the form of a potion or elixir.
No. These cacao beans aren't for recovery or any such mundane purpose. They are part of my strategy to secure first place in the upcoming exam with minimal effort. I have no intention of working hard except in my training. The rest is beneath me. The head butler watched with curiosity as I devoured the bitter cacao bean. Intrigued by my peculiar tastes, he kindly offered to have the beans processed and sent to my room, but I declined his offer, opting to take them as they were. My interest in consuming chocolate had indeed waned, but I had a grand plan in mind for these cacao beans. They would play a pivotal role in the practical exam scheduled in 5 days. This event would be unlike anything the Baskerville clan had ever witnessed.
I'm starting to feel like your babysitter in this world, and since Vikir is in a sedated state, I'll transfer his knowledge on the Baskerville family. In this world, the Baskerville family are known as a berserker family. Owing to the rigorous training and evaluations their children undergo from a very young age. The training begins as soon as a child can take their first steps. From that moment, they are subjected to grueling tests of their stamina. During these tests, they are forbidden from lying down or resting on their stomachs, except during designated breaks. And as if this wasn't enough, when it's time for them to sleep, they must do so alongside a lifeless monster's corpse. These harsh practices are designed to toughen them to adapt to harsh environments and become resilient in the face of danger. It's these extreme practices that have instilled both fear and respect for the Baskerville family throughout the land. After this rigorous training, the children reach the age of 8, marking the beginning of the ultimate test that has solidified Baskerville's notorious reputation. This crucial event unfolds at Le Rouge at Lenoir Mountain. The mountain is teeming with formidable monsters, and it is here that the young hounds gather to face the most perilous evaluation.
Oh, how could I forget? Data, the world Jimmy Cricket, has truly accomplished wonders. I mean, it's not like you weren't the one who suggested and even created the method for soul residence. So, by all means, let's not waste time with these petty complaints and act like the fantastic system that you are. Anyway, our instructor, Shadow Dog Pavlov van Baskerville, stands before us, the young masters, and meticulously lays out the rules of the impending trial. Our task is to survive in this treacherous domain for an entire month, hunting down large and powerful monsters. The points awarded for success are as follows: 10 points for surviving, 30 points for survival without incapacitation, 50 points for outlasting fellow young masters, 70 points for defeating a monster and emerging victorious, and 90 points if we manage to accomplish all of the above. Pavlov emphasizes that there are no perfect scores, and he reminds us of Sir Hugo's lesson that a swordsman dies the moment they become arrogant. The instructor cautions us against straying from the designated area, as Le Rouge et Le Noir Mountain is a restricted zone filled with many undiscovered elements. We are advised to stay within the area where the monsters have already been subjugated. Pavlov informs us that shadow dogs, the guardian knights, will be hidden in the shadows, secretly grading our performance. As we young masters prepare for the impending practical exam, some of our peers take notice of me and begin discussing my past feats. Their comments do not perturb me. I remain composed, contemplating the challenges of Le Rouge et Le Noir Mountain, a place I have visited before. Meanwhile, the triplets who stand near me are visibly nervous, their faces glistening with sweat.
Well, how could you ever forget the grand spectacle where you magnanimously graced them with a 3-on-1 beatdown, only to generously orchestrate a little friendly death match between the losers while you stood by and then gleefully have the winner watch while you, well, let's say, handled the 2 losers, all while cackling like a maniac. You're positively a benevolent monarch master. And of course, let's not forget the part where you capped it all off by casually labeling them as weak and pitiful to dear old patriarch. Just for a bit of your own personal entertainment, you bully them out of boredom. A true virtuoso of kindness you are.
Oh, my bad. I must have missed the part where I did something wrong. Clearly, I missed the part where Vikir valiantly tried to stop me after he awakened. But, hey, let's not dwell on my apparent oversight and get back to our riveting tale, shall we? Shadow Dog Pavlov, with a solemn expression fixed upon us young masters, produced a bell, and his final address carried the weight of his wishes for good luck. The resonant chime of the bell filled the air as the exam officially commenced. We, the young masters, dispersed across the mountain, each fiercely determined to outshine the others. One of the shadow dogs assigned to observe me grew increasingly perplexed as he followed my path into a restricted area. I reached a sizable tree. Deciding it was time for a break, I left the bewildered shadow dog in my wake. While my fellow participants battled monsters and engaged in skirmishes, I focused on more unconventional activities like gathering wood and honing my skills with a wooden stick. Later, I settled beneath the tree, resting peacefully. The shadow dog's impatience grew as he questioned the nature of my actions. Eventually, the shadow dog decided to pursue more engaging endeavors, departing from my vicinity, free from the prying eyes of the shadow dog. I tossed some cacao beans into the fire, relieved that I could now proceed with the preparations I had made, unhindered by the intrusion.
Master, how do you intend to approach this exam? It seems to me that you're approaching it more casually, almost like a vacation, rather than a serious academic endeavor.
Data. By tapping into Vikir's memories, and with events aligning in my favor, I could potentially complete this exam in just a week. However, given the month-long time frame, there's no immediate pressure for me to begin. I must also consider the possibility of encountering interference from that shadow dog if I proceed with my plan too early. A few days later, I ventured into the restricted area. As I explored the region, a distinct odor of burning and charred tree roots reached my senses, a telltale sign of the monster I had been hunting. Before me stood the Hellhound, a formidable creature exuding an aura of danger. Its mouth and eyes emitted sulphurous flames, and its fiery breath was deadly. Surviving a bite from this creature was a near impossible feat. I found myself in a precarious situation. I quickly assessed the situation, capitalizing on the Hellhound's vulnerabilities. One of its weaknesses was its limited ability to only move in straight lines. I utilized this flaw to my advantage, using water to create barriers and exploit its aversion to crossing water. gaining precious moments to evade its fiery attacks. Another vulnerability I observed in canine monsters was that they tended to open their mouths while running. Seizing this opportune moment, I skillfully tossed a cacao bean into the hellhound's mouth, rendering it helpless and writhing in agony. With a swift, precise strike, I pierced the hellhound's kidney, effectively ending its life. As I absorbed the monster's energy, I could feel my body growing stronger. I pondered how Hugo would react when I present the head of a B+ rank monster as an 8-year-old. Eager for more challenges and rewards, I stood confidently, secure in the knowledge that I had secured first place in the practical exam.
I understand now. Chocolate is known to be toxic to canines, and when considering the bloody bean's capacity to produce 100 liters of chocolate with a single bean, it becomes clear how detrimental it would be to a canine monster like the hellhound.
However, my moment of triumph was abruptly interrupted as a group of hellhounds approached, likely seeking vengeance for their fallen comrade. I remained composed and poised, acutely aware of their vulnerabilities and how to overcome them. As the hellhounds closed in, I drew my sword, a smirk of confidence gracing my face. I swiftly severed the head of one of the fallen hellhounds and taunted the rest, fully aware that they were no match for my skills and knowledge. With the successful defeat of one of their kind, I was prepared to take them all down. However, to my surprise, the hellhounds began to whimper, a behavior I couldn't fathom. Hellhounds were known for their fierce and relentless nature. They would never submit to their prey, even in the face of death. My mind raced as I tried to discern what could possibly make these formidable beasts feel such unease. As I turned to investigate, I laid my eyes on a monstrous 3-headed creature, standing boldly before me. It was a Cerberus, the legendary 3-headed dog from Greek mythology, towering at an imposing 7 meters in size.
I tried to inform you, but you were too caught up in belittling those hellhounds to notice that a Cerberus was approaching.
Cerberus bore an A+ rank rating, so a creature of immense danger. My bewilderment grew as I questioned why a Cerberus, which typically resided on the 7th ridge of Le Rouge-et-le-Noir mountain, had ventured to this location. It was known as the ultimate lookout monster. Observing the Cerberus closely, I noticed that it bore wounds and multiple arrows stuck in its body, evidence of being hunted. It had fled to this area, being pursued relentlessly. This presented an opportunity for me to face and potentially defeat an injured A+ rank monster, a rare and rewarding chance. Plus, it's fortunate that Vikir awakened just before the start of the exam, as it opens up the option of using Soul Resonance. Not wasting no time, me and Vikir preformed Soul Resonance Fusion. All the weapons at my disposal worked effectively against the injured Cerberus. With my honed swordsmanship, developed through confrontations with the demon clans, I landed several precise strikes on the Cerberus, believing that I had a chance of victory. However, the sudden ending of the fusion allowed the Cerberus to retaliate with its formidable claws. The first strike shattered my sword, and the second sent me hurtling through the air, crashing into a tree trunk with a resounding thud. Blood spilled from my mouth as the impact left me grievously injured and incapacitated. As my vision slowly cleared, a surge of panic coursed through me. I feared the worst, considering the direct attack of the Cerberus and the searing pain in my left arm. I cautiously examined my arm, relieved to find that it was still attached to my body, albeit bearing injuries. I realized that the magical properties of the river Styx had likely played a role in protecting me from the Cerberus's full force, although I knew I couldn't rely solely on the river's protection. My relief was short-lived. Another encounter with the Cerberus would likely prove fatal. I needed to evade its relentless pursuit. I dodged as the Cerberus lunged at me once more. I recognized that my best course of action was to flee. As I sprinted through the perilous terrain, my eyes darted around, searching for an escape route. And then, salvation presented itself. An iron fence stood just a few yards away. Hope surged within me. If I could breach that fence, I would be out of the restricted area. With every ounce of strength and determination, I pushed myself harder. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I propelled myself through the gate, and a rush of relief flooded my heart. I had succeeded in escaping the restricted area, but the danger was far from over. My objective now was to reach the safe haven I had prepared for myself before embarking on this perilous mission. As I continued to run, scanning the surrounding woods for any signs of the pursuing hellhound, my heart raced with the fear of being caught by the relentless beast. I scoured the nearby woods, searching for the pit I had prepared beforehand. Finally, I spotted what I was looking for, a carefully concealed pit. With the hellhound hot on my heels, I jumped forward, narrowly avoiding its snapping jaws. The beast plummeted into the pit, which was filled with wooden spears. I couldn't help but smile, knowing that my preparations had paid off. The wooden spears were coated with a deadly essence derived from the bloody bean, acting as a potent poison against canid monsters. Cerberus growled and foam started oozing from its mouth, but I remained focused and ready for the next phase of the battle. This fight was shaping up to be one of the toughest challenges of my life. With a wooden spear in hand, I took careful aim and hurled it at Cerberus, striking the hellhound's side. However, Cerberus remained alive and continued to approach me menacingly. I counted its steps with precision as it closed in, one by one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When Cerberus took the 7th step, it came to a sudden halt and collapsed right in front of me. I released a sigh of relief, confirming that the rumors I had heard were true. The wooden spear I had used was no ordinary weapon. It was a spear laced with the venomous fang of the deadly bloody mamba snake. This venom prevented its victim from taking more than 7 steps after being bitten. I had kept it hidden since my youth, knowing that it could serve me well one day. As the energy from Cerberus's lifeless body entered me, I stood over the 3 lifeless heads of the fallen beast. I marveled at the newfound power I possessed, but my thoughts swiftly shifted to the challenge of transporting the massive carcass back. I knew that the cause of Cerberus's demise would be evident to anyone who saw it, and I began to contemplate who might become a witness. Perhaps the guardian knight who had witnessed me crafting the wooden spears could be of assistance. However, my thoughts ventured into a different realm entirely. Cerberus was a gatekeeper, guarding something of significant importance.
This is precisely why I emphasize the importance of developing soul resonance between you and Vikir. The union failed because you two are out of sync. Are you even paying
Since I
attention?
have to hear this
Master?
AI of mine
don't
vent
want to
from
be
what
trapped here if
transpired
something
in this
happens
exam,
suddenly.
if you could hit
This
that
is
subscribe
exactly
button
why
to
I
help
was
the
reluctant
channel
to
and
leave
enjoy,
this body.
damn how
I knew
deep
you
is
would
this
do
effing
something
cave.
like this.
The dimly lit cave seemed to stretch far beyond my initial expectations, with its dark depths suggesting a vast expanse. As I navigated the shadowy passages, I couldn't help but notice veins of ruby minerals scattered throughout, hinting at a possible connection to the nearby Redall Mountain. My curiosity was piqued. Suddenly, a glimmer of light broke through the pervasive darkness, inviting me to explore further into the dungeon. Eager to uncover its hidden secrets, I quickened my pace, eventually finding myself standing in a chamber bathed in brilliant illumination. My eyes slowly adjusted, revealing an enormous ruby perched atop a central pillar. Its radiant beauty was truly captivating. However, my moment of awe was interrupted by the silent witness of a nearby skeleton. This unfortunate soul had met a violent end here long ago, and their remains were a somber testament to the perils of this place. Intrigued, I picked up a letter that lay beside the skeletal remains. Its author, a certain Cain, introduced himself while explaining his reluctance to defile the pure white paper with his name. The letter told a harrowing tale of 2 brothers, Cain and Abel, who had stumbled upon a legendary stone chamber, a relic that had been passed down through generations of their family. Their journey had led them through countless trials, culminating in a final challenge that had held them captive for 3 long years. The sacrifice they had made was indeed beyond comprehension. Turning my attention back to the magnificent ruby at the chamber's heart, I couldn't help but be intrigued by the riddle inscribed on a nearby monument. When entering, it's 1, but once inside, it's 2. When leaving, it's 1. The enigma confounded me, but I remembered from the letter that Cain and Abel had wrestled with the very same puzzle. The letter recounted that the 2 brothers had contemplated the cryptic text for an extended period before reaching a conclusion. According to the letter, Cain had revealed that he and Abel were twins, separated at birth. To claim the treasure hidden within the dungeon, they had to become one once more, suggesting that only one of them could leave with the coveted prize. This revelation had led to a fierce battle in which Cain had taken the life of his own brother. However, their situation had remained unchanged. Although they had transitioned from 2 to 1, Cain still couldn't obtain the treasure. Filled with regret, he had chosen to leave the site and caution others against entering this devil's den, designed to taunt and test the limits of human nature.
If you allow me, I can input this riddle into my system and, through analysis, generate a possible answer.
Oh, by all means, feel free to take your sweet time. We wouldn't want to rush through this or anything.
The riddle goes, when entering, it's 1, but once inside, it's 2. When leaving, it's 1. My analysis suggests that when you first enter a dark passageway, you're 1, but as soon as the ruby's light creates a shadow, you become 2. And when darkness returns, you become 1 again, signaling the opening of the final stage in the stone chamber.
I confidently raised my hand, shattering the magnificent ruby at the chamber's center. A blinding burst of light filled the room, unveiling the long-hidden treasure concealed within. My eyes widened with amazement as I gazed upon the object that had cost 2 brothers their lives. Before me lay a sinister-looking sword, exuding an aura of malevolence, as I couldn't help but wonder if this was indeed the relic of the Devil's Den. Drawing nearer to the sword, I examined it with great interest. My gaze fell upon the text inscribed on the stone surface beneath it, a declaration that sent a shock through my being. Only those with Baskerville's blood coursing through their veins were worthy to claim this sword, aptly named Beelzebub. It was a revelation that left me utterly astonished.
Master, you might not be able to contemplate the significance of this discovery, but Beelzebub is a name rooted in the legends of old. It was a monstrous entity of unparalleled might that had once invaded the continent. Beelzebub was a part of the Devil's holy constellation, known as the 7 Calamities, and had been a formidable foe for the heads of the Baskerville family.
So, this thing was part of the Devil's holy constellation, known as the 7 Calamities, and the sword before me was proof of that the first Baskerville patriarch defeated Beelzebub and had the remnants of its power was stored within the lands of Baskerville. My thoughts raced as I remembered that the blade had been taken by the demon clans, leading to countless human deaths on the battlefield. Attempting to pull the sword free, I declared that it would never fall into the hands of the demon clans again.
Warning.
Suddenly, I felt an energy coursing into my hand, and I exclaimed in surprise. I gripped the hilt firmly, and the sword Beelzebub vanished from sight. Moments later, it reappeared, fully fused with my hand. This situation was spiraling far beyond what I had anticipated. I was accustomed to Data being my constant companion. Yet, Vikir had taken on a more prominent role than merely being a memory and power source. Now, I found myself burdened with the haunting presence of a demon's echo within my mind. If I began to teeter on the brink of madness, my dear viewers, be prepared to witness a shift from DC's Joker to something akin to Deadpool, or perhaps a descent into a state of absolute lunacy, as if I had become truly cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Extending my hand, I summoned Beelzebub, which emerged from it, emitting a faint aura. I gazed at the blade with wonder, fully aware that it was crafted from the corpse of a devil's holy constellation. I decided it was time to return. Yet, as I left the dungeon, something strange began happening to my body. I dropped to my knees, feeling dizzy and ravenously hungry. I heard Beelzebub's voice resonating within me. It dawned on me that it wasn't I who was hungry, but the sword itself. Beelzebub began tugging at my hand, directing me to follow it in a particular direction. Curious about what lay ahead, I discovered it was the corpse of the hellhound I had slain earlier. I was surprised to find that Beelzebub was drawn to the hellhound's remains and extended the sword toward it. I watched as Beelzebub absorbed the blood of the hellhound, finished its meal, making a satisfied sound. I observed as the sword's hunger was finally sated, and I took the opportunity to examine its abilities. Burn, Injury Cerberus, Hemorrhage Hellhound, and High-Speed Regeneration Norvegicus Sewer Rat. I was surprised to find the high-speed regeneration ability. The other young hounds who had completed their practical examinations returned to Baskerville. As the evaluations concluded, they received their rewards: shields, swords, or necklaces crafted from the parts of the monsters they had hunted during their exams. Hugo sat in his office, wearing a surprised expression as he directed a question to his head butler, inquiring about the successful monster hunt. The head butler responded, detailing how I had managed to capture the Cerberus that had, accidentally, entered the restricted area during the practical exam. Hugo, taken aback, couldn't fathom how a young hound had taken down a monster that even the Guardian Knights hesitated to confront. The head butler continued to narrate the incident, explaining the condition of the Cerberus's corpse. Intrigued by the details, Hugo expressed his interest in the matter, but the head butler could only provide information based on the entries in the hunting journal. Planning to inquire further from me, Hugo learned that I had already returned to my dormitory. Amused by my swift actions, he commented on my cunning nature, acknowledging the value of information as a form of power. The head butler, still astonished, voiced his surprise at the remarkable talents displayed by a hound named Van. Not adhering to the traditional naming conventions of Le or La, Hugo, known for his belief in talent over lineage, reiterated his stance on raising hounds based on their abilities rather than their bloodline. To shift the atmosphere, the head butler summoned me to stand before Patriarch Hugo, who, maintaining composure, inquired about the successful Cerberus hunt during the practical exam. In response, I calmly explained my strategy, revealing the use of chocolate on my wooden spear as a lethal poison for canine monsters. This revelation surprised Hugo, prompting him to realize the purpose behind my earlier request for chocolate. Hugo inquired why I hadn't given a proper response when the head butler questioned me about the Cerberus hunt. I straightforwardly stated that the butler was not my master. When Hugo pressed about who my master was, I asserted that belonging to the clan meant the clan's master was also my master. Hugo smirked, congratulating me on the successful hunt and granting me the privilege of claiming the monster's corpse. As the highest scorer, I had the opportunity to make a wish. I revealed my wish, to gain access to the 10,000 epistle library. Hugo raised an eyebrow, reminding me of the restricted entry to the library. I expressed my willingness to relinquish the wish if it wasn't allowed, secretly planning to find a way to sneak in. To my surprise, Hugo not only granted permission, but instructed me to read Baskerville's 6th technique, located in the 6th restricted zone of the library. The news startled me, as it was uncommon for an illegitimate child, with the middle name Van, to be allowed beyond the 4th technique. I strived to stay calm and rationalize the situation, considering it was only the 6th technique. Yet, my determination remained unshaken. My goal was clear: to surpass Hugo and obtain the greatest essence of Baskerville, the swordsmanship textbook containing the teachings of the first patriarch who subdued the 7 great disasters. Realizing the value of this opportunity, I bowed and thanked Hugo, knowing he might not comprehend the true worth of the random book he handed over. Nevertheless, I was confident in making the most of this chance. Entering the 10,000 epistle library for the first time, I marveled at its vastness. Browsing through the books on swordsmanship, I couldn't help but read out their names to myself. However, I was well aware that, despite being an illegitimate child of Baskerville, surpassing the 4th technique was a barrier set by the family's defense mechanism to prevent undue rebellion. I reached a section where a book was chained with a lock. Unlocking it, I pondered on Hugo's reasoning, believing an 8-year-old wouldn't memorize its contents in a day. Little did he know that, before my regression, Vikir had already mastered the theories up to the 4th technique, going further to deduce the 5th. A realization struck me. After drawing the 4th tooth, I needed to halt the mana flow to proceed. This might be the reason I couldn't manifest the 5th tooth. Despite the opportunity to delve into the book on the 6th technique, I was indifferent. My real motive for coming to the 10,000 epistle library was to reach a stage higher than my current one. As I exited the swordsmanship section, the guards were taken aback. They questioned if I had finished reading so quickly and offered more books from deeper within the library. I dismissed it, knowing that hidden treasures often lurked among dusty miscellaneous books. My eyes lit up as I found a book titled A Lurking Ambush. Though seemingly useless and torn, I knew its true worth. I remembered finding a ripped page from a swordsmanship textbook with Baskerville's handwriting. The missing pages, hidden in A Lurking Ambush, held the key to mastering the techniques. I knew that to others, it might seem like a miscellaneous and incomprehensible book, but by utilizing the missing pages, this seemingly false information would transform into a masterpiece. I made a vow to reclaim that lost power before turning 15. Deeply engrossed in reading, time seemed to fly. When I finally closed the book, I realized the night had turned into day, proud of myself for memorizing its entire contents.
Memorize? Master, you and me upload and create training simulations of the techniques so that I can remove any wasted movement I found. On top of the muscle memory of Vikir's past life sped up the process.
Standing amidst the absent guardian knights, I acknowledged that drawing 10 teeth with my current body was beyond reach, but I felt confident in unlocking the elusive 5th technique that had eluded Vikir in his past life. Focused and resolute, I faced a statue, wielding my Baskerville sword technique with increasing intensity. Successive strikes echoed the execution of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and finally, the 4th technique. I executed the technique, cutting through the statue with precision. Catching my breath, I marveled at the success of the 5th technique, still trembling with the excitement of drawing the 5th tooth, realizing how far I had come in such a short time. In just 8 years, I had reached a level that took Vikir 30 years. Confident in my new skills, I was determined to master the lurking ambush sword technique, recognizing its potential for seamless transitions between offense and defense. Placing the book near the window, I felt capable of challenging a mid-class graduator and winning with my newfound skills. But to keep my strength concealed from Hugo, I needed to maintain an air of mystery, providing Hugo with something to anticipate. Taking out a magnifying lens, I positioned it carefully near the book. As the sun's rays converged onto the pages, a small fire ignited. With an evil grin, I remarked that destroying the book would impede Hugo and the hounds from reaching the 10th technique, a hurdle I had no intention of facing.
Master, how do you plan to explain the destruction of one of their ancient texts? You're already trolling the patriarch, confusing the butler, and collecting entities like you're gathering tailed beasts. This was supposed to be the revenge of the Iron-Blooded Hound, but you turned it into a narrative of how you became the Jinchuriki of the main character. How far do you intend to take this rewrite?
I don't know, but if our viewers hit that subscribe button, they'll find out.
You're going to get us killed.
Not likely, so stop worrying about it. It's not like we're going to run into a kaiju-sized monster, and I'll go all Third Raikage on it.
You're going to get us killed.
Suddenly, the guards who had been nowhere to be seen arrived in the miscellaneous part of the library, drawn by the scent of burning paper. They were startled to find me there and demanded an explanation for the situation. My expression quickly shifted to one of apology as I explained that I had accidentally left the magnifying glass, resulting in the fire. I assured them that I would report the incident to the head butler. Aware of the potential consequences, the guards, after a brief pause, reassured me that there was no need for an apology. They acknowledged it was their responsibility to look after me and expressed relief that the affected area contained only seemingly useless books.
Master, your trolling antics are reaching a level comparable to your brother's, considering the pace you're maintaining.
Well, he did manage to get our dad to almost eat a washcloth, thinking it was ramen during movie night. And let's not forget the time he imitated our mom's voice on the answering machine, leaving a message for herself, which drove her momentarily nuts trying to remember when she left this message for herself and why.
Or the time he got you good with the Scream movie phone call.
Data, shut up about that. Yeah, I might have pushed it a bit too far this time, but does she genuinely think she stands a chance?
Yes, you did go a bit overboard. Firstly, you exaggerated when asked what you learned, making Hugo suspicious. Then, facing an ogre, you toyed around before getting serious and using Aura Blade for dissection. And instead of leaving it at that, you asked for a real challenge.
How was I supposed to know that wouldn't be a challenge? It's not like the troll he had me face fared any better.
Master, you're showing off too much. I'm sure Hugo is getting a good estimate of your true strength.
Well, I do need to give everyone a reason to hit the subscribe button to join our channel, so a bit of craziness might bring in the likes.
I would have liked if you didn't reveal more of our skills, but you had to go and annoy the young talent of the Morg clan. Camus Morg.
That brat was asking for it, and it was just a toy anyway. Those Morg clan members can't even take a joke, acting all high and mighty in front of me. Camus instructed me to get ready, emphasizing that she wouldn't hold back once she was prepared. Wasting no time, Camus began casting spells simultaneously, impressing the audience at her ability to cast 4 spells at once, acknowledging her as the genius mage of Morg. However, I effortlessly dodged all of them. I suggested that she focus on mastering one powerful spell rather than showcasing flashy but less effective ones. Sneering, Camus retaliated with a sandwall spell. I swiftly broke through the wall with a kick, prompting a comment on Camus's harsh words. Surprised at my strength, I launched an attack. Closing her eyes, Camus expected to get hit but was astonished to find me flicking my finger on her forehead, playfully sending her flying backward. Camus, nursing her forehead, accusing me of going easy on her. With a smile, I proposed ending the duel before it escalated further. Undeterred, Camus, with teary eyes, refused to back down and conjured a double-layered sand wall, confident that her defensive measure would hold, asserting that I couldn't breach the reinforced walls. Playing along, I delivered a single punch, effortlessly creating a hole in both layers. Surprised by the unexpected turn, Camus found herself on the receiving end of another flick, causing her to fall in apparent pain. Despite the playful exchanges, Camus continued attacking me, who effortlessly dodged her efforts. Noticing 2 other contestants having a duel behind me, I considered letting others handle Camus, as her attacks consistently missed their mark. Demanding that I face her, I warned Camus to have a defensive spell ready. Confused at first, Camus soon realized the incoming threat from the mage behind me. A powerful blast engulfed the arena, surprising the audience. Camus managed to avoid injuries with a defensive spell, but her clothes were burned by the flames. Feeling a sense of shame, Camus was on the verge of tears when I appeared before her, tossing my jacket to cover up. Confused by my unexpected kindness, she protested weakly. Unable to understand why I was helping her despite our rivalry left Camus in disbelief. The spectacle left the audience in awe.
Master, I noticed Camus, despite her initial anger, found her eyes drawn to you. She might be experiencing an unexplained attraction to you.
Data, I think you're seeing things. As Hugo and I walked down a dimly lit hallway after the battle, the repercussions of the duel lingered in the air. Hugo inquired about my duel with Lady Morg, curious about my decision not to deliver a decisive blow. I admitted to feeling unsure about how to deal with a female opponent, prompting Hugo to emphasize the importance of not letting my guard down in battle. Surprised by Hugo's unexpected concern, I reflected on the rumors surrounding his changed demeanor due to personal losses. Shifting the conversation, Hugo sought my opinion on the matter of the ruby mines. I suggested relinquishing control over the mines, reasoning that managing the monsters and barbarians in the region would pose challenges during our expansion. By leveraging the Morg clan, we could minimize losses and ensure a smoother expansion. Hugo agreed with my reasoning and outlined his plan. Once the Morg clan gained control of the mines, they would deploy a significant force to drive out monsters and barbarians, using the rubies as a strategic asset. Hugo believed this would deter the Morg clan from encroaching on our territory. Acknowledging that my idea aligned with his plans, however, I couldn't help but recall that the concept had originated from Hugo himself in my past life. Suggesting increased vigilance on the Morg's movements, Hugo revealed an augmentation in scouting efforts. Our discussion was interrupted by Adolf, proposing a peaceful resolution for the ruby mines issue. His suggestions included engaging the Morg and Baskerville children. While Hugo and Adolf explored the details, Camus blushed, stealing glances at me. Inquiring about the child for engagement, Hugo expressed concern over the age gap when Adolf recommended a union between Hugo's eldest son and Camus. Camus interjected, emphasizing her preference for a strong and close-in-age partner. Frustrated by her objections, Hugo and Adolf debated the age difference. However, Camus, blushing, directed her attention toward me, revealing her feelings. Adolf, disapproving, warned her against entertaining such thoughts. Hugo intervened, emphasizing that engagements relied on the individuals involved. Turning to me, Hugo sought my thoughts. Camus eagerly awaited my response, and after a brief exchange of glances, I accepted the engagement. Camus, intrigued by my response, blushed further, while an outraged Adolf seethed at my perceived audacity, clarifying to everyone there that my acceptance was in reality for me to just follow instructions. I left both Camus and Adolf puzzled by my response. Hugo declared that names and titles held no significance in Baskerville, emphasizing that greatness originated from both Le and Van Descent. However, Adolf, harboring skepticism, closely scrutinized me. I met Adolf's gaze, considering his reputation as a six-circle master and one of the Morg clan's strongest mages. Breaking the silence, Adolf stressed the importance of selecting an appropriate husband for Camus. I wondered if even the genius of our Baskerville clan was insufficient for Adolf. Adolf placed his hand on my shoulder, attempting to press me down only to be surprised by my sturdy resistance. Questioning my silence, I provided a blunt response, leaving Camus in shock and Hugo struggling to suppress his laughter amid the tension. Finding humor in the situation, Adolf requested a deeper conversation with me. Hugo questioned Adolf's intentions, wondering if he intended to scold an 8-year-old. To Hugo's surprise, Adolf proposed a duel instead, indicating a test of my abilities. So, Adolf and I faced off in an arena, with Hugo and Camus observing from the sidelines. Adolf instructed me to showcase everything I could do, challenging my skills. Data. Use Camus as a reference to conduct a comprehensive analysis of Adolf's potential skill set. Run 100 simulations and present a detailed course of action. I'm increasingly irked by the remarks of this old fossil, and I desire a few strategies to address the situation with precision.
Conducting simulations 100 times. Continuous updates in progress. Final analysis uploaded. Master, enjoy your fight.
Will do. I agreed, but contemplated to myself that revealing everything might overwhelm Adolf because Data's analysis is always on point. Adolf, demonstrating his mastery, crafted a pot using fire, earth, and water magic simultaneously. Filling the pot with water, he placed it on his head and challenged me to make a single drop fall for victory. Data getting offended, but his taunt reanalyzed the situation and calculated my chances in a direct confrontation. Deciding to approach carefully, I charged at Adolf with a sword, prompting Camus's protest. Adolf blocked the attack with a barrier spell, amused by my attempt. He then turned to offensive, casting spells that I skillfully dodged. Camus continued protest, supporting me, surprised Adolf, questioning Camus's allegiance. Hugo, analyzing the battle, deemed Adolf's attacks challenging but not impossible to dodge, so chose not to intervene. Hugo watched as I continued dodging spells, eager to see my capabilities. I attacked with precision, attacking Adolf's shield. Adolf, impressed by my machine-like movements, stated about how a broken sword lacks any durability. However, Hugo and Camus were visibly shocked by what followed. Water unexpectedly poured on Adolf's face, soaking him completely. I remarked that the pot seemed full with a clear smile on my face. This win wasn't a fluke or coincidence, but a display of my exceptional talent and strength, prompting Hugo to wonder if he was raising a hound much stronger than anticipated. 7 years had passed since we first set foot on the Baskerville training grounds. Now, facing a formidable oxbear, we demonstrated our skills under the vigilant gaze of Staffordshire Baskerville. Staffordshire guided us, suggesting a strategic approach by targeting the hind leg first. The triplets executed well-coordinated strikes, showcasing the effectiveness of our dark crimson aura, a trait well-suited for Baskervilles. After successfully subduing the weakened monster, Staffordshire commended us, acknowledging our status as low-rank sword experts and masters of the first Baskerville technique. He emphasized the potential dangers we would encounter when facing the wild ox bear on Le Rouge, Illinois Mountain. With the completion of our intensive training, Staffordshire wished us luck in our future endeavors. As the young hounds celebrated their graduation, discussions shifted to preferences for Baskerville night orders. Interestingly, one of them expressed curiosity about the whereabouts of a certain individual, referring to the figure seated on the defeated ox bear, none other than myself. Their conversation about me continued, with one highlighting my impressive feat of defeating a larger ox bear. They speculated about my capabilities, suggesting that I might be on par with shadow hounds in prowess. Meanwhile, I sat atop the vanquished ox bear, reflecting on my journey. Despite progress, I sensed that the pace of my growth was slower than anticipated. Currently, I'm holding an intermediate rank in the 5th Baskerville technique. Interrupting my contemplation, Head Butler Barrymore delivered a message that the Patriarch sought me. I acknowledged it and proceeded to Hugo's office. Hugo, sporting a cut on his nose, greeted me in his office. Curious about the injury, I discovered that Hugo had been dealing with barbarians on the mountain, and a skilled archer had left a mark. Despite not capturing the archer, Hugo retaliated with a matching scar. While congratulating me on graduating, he forewarned me about the hurdles ahead, alluding to a demanding assignment. Hugo's ominous words hinted at the divergent paths awaiting Baskerville children, either as expendable soldiers or elites, educated in politics and administration. Understanding the dynamics within the Baskerville hierarchy, I knew that Hugo would be reluctant to allow an illegitimate child like me to pursue a course meant for the elite. As I contemplated the intricacies of Baskerville's sword techniques, designed to create a gap between elites and expendables, Hugo unexpectedly suggested I try the lower house of Parliament. Perplexed, I sought clarification from Hugo. He elucidated that my accomplishments surpassed those of 10-year-old prodigies, and as such, I deserved an elite position. The role he proposed was Deputy Consul of the underdog city. I agreed to take on the role, but before delving into this new chapter, Hugo wanted to discuss the aftermath of my encounter with the Morgue clan and the Ruby Mines. Seizing my chance, I brazenly requested to borrow my reward, a notion that shocked even the head butler, though it seemed to leave Hugo unfazed. A stamped paper sealed the agreement, and I assured Hugo that I wouldn't cause him undue concern. The transition from being acknowledged as an illegitimate child to being addressed as son by Hugo marked a curious shift that I couldn't ignore. Strolling alongside head butler Barrymore, he underscored the importance of my appointment, highlighting the Patriarch's deep respect and the implicit preparation for more significant responsibilities. An advancement in the disciplines of kingship.
Master, with this change in childhood, it wouldn't be impossible for you to renege on our agreement due to a change of heart.
No chance. Those reactions you were picking up were coming from Vikir, not me. This son nonsense is only pissing him off. Embracing my newfound role and fully aware of the challenges ahead, I viewed it as a chance to hone my skills in a more secure setting. My indifference toward current events contrasted sharply with the vivid memories from Vikir's past life, where the guillotine had severed his head. The inclination to make Hugo experience a similar sensation firmly rooted itself in my consciousness. In a region of the Baskerville territory, particularly in Underdog City, preparations buzzed in anticipation of my arrival. Within a villa, a bald overseer directed 2 diligent workers to guarantee immaculate surroundings for the incoming deputy consul. Speculations regarding the age of the new official filled the air. As I approached, the workers attempted to decipher my identity. Met with a stern response, I presented the document verifying my position. Confusion lingered among the workers as I directed them to ready for a celebratory event, signaling the commencement of my tenure. The workers remained perplexed about my early arrival, but I paid no mind to their confusion. Upon entering the villa, I noticed the questioning expressions on the workers' faces, wondering why the new deputy consul was planning a party. The festivities commenced, filling the entire villa with food, drinks, and the laughter of attending nobles engaging in lively conversations. Chihuahua Baskerville paced nervously in his office, visibly agitated. Glancing out the window, he couldn't believe his eyes. The newly appointed deputy consul, a young man recently inducted into city service, was hosting a party at the workplace. Already grappling with the challenges of his predecessor's dismissals due to bribery, Chihuahua was taken aback by this audacious behavior. As he prepared to express his frustration, I unexpectedly appeared behind him, inquiring if he was the general secretary. unfolding in the VVIP lounge, renting for a whopping 10 million gold. The 7 crucial members of the Youth Autonomy Association, representing the second and third generations of the 7 native families within the Baskerville territory. The blonde in the club instructed waiters to drink the spilled wine on the table, comparing them to hunting dogs. His companions praised the Baskervilles for protecting them and facilitating their wealth, attributing it to territorial expansion and the demand for slaves. The discussion shifted to a new deputy consul of Van Descent. The blonde proposed teaching the young government worker a lesson by inviting him to a party, then force him to foot the bill afterward. The group laughed at the impending prank. As they planned, a waiter entered with some girls, announcing their arrival. Excitement filled the room as the young heirs prepared to enjoy their evening. However, their excitement turned to surprise when they noticed me accompanying the ladies. Unaware of who I was, the waiter grabbed me, demanding to know why I was there. The room fell silent as I approached, and the waiter soon realized his arm was bent at an impossible angle. I introduced myself as Van Baskerville, and the blonde guy recognized me as the deputy consul, questioning my presence. I calmly replied that they had invited me. The group started to whisper between themselves, but growing impatient, I placed my hand on the table, interrupting their conversation, stopping the pointless chatter. The table exploded, glasses soaring and crashing to the floor, surprising everyone in the room. They watched in disbelief, wondering if I had used mana manipulation to make the champagne tower explode with just a touch. Placing my hand on one of the guy's shoulders, addressing him directly, scared the guy, blurted out that they would pay for the drinks. I questioned if their plan was to have me to pay for everything, and another companion spoke up, questioning who would dare do such a thing. The blonde looked to be the ringleader tried to calm the situation, claiming they only wanted to test my leadership qualities in Underdog City. They assured me that they recognized my capabilities and would follow my lead. Suddenly, I unleashed a palm strike, resembling more of a claw attack, on the guy sitting closest to me. I tightly grasped his stomach and delivered a stern message. An owner could test their dog, but a dog should never test their owner. As I looked at the rest of the group, I questioned whether their wealth and power had left them unfazed by my actions. Throwing the guy I had been holding to the ground, I stepped on his face and asked the rest of the group if they understood why I had taken such actions. The blonde guy's fear betrayed them as he stuttered out a response. However, telling them that if they truly knew, they would understand the consequences of what would come next. The group became angry, labeling me a bastard and questioning if I thought I could get away with it. Suddenly, I appeared right in front of the second guy, accusing the group of crimes such as abduction, kidnapping, illegal slave trafficking, and worst, insulting the Baskerville name. The rest of the group wore shocked expressions upon hearing the litany of crimes they had committed. I punched the second guy, stating that animals don't learn until you teach them. A twisted grin displayed as I declared that I was going to teach these disobedient creatures a lesson.
Master, your actions since your arrival have created a sense of intrigue among the people, making it challenging for them to decipher your motives. While it seems that your deeds have generally garnered a positive reception, there remains a prevailing belief that the nobles and crime bosses continue to wield influence in the province, operating behind the scenes.
Earlier today, Chihuahua came to me with news that the Village Hall's Youth Autonomy Association had requested a meeting. He explained that this association comprised various clans' next heads and was oddly described as a promiscuous social club, despite its misleading name. He speculated that the young masters in the association might have something to say about the special law I put in play. However, my response was, the dung flies have started to smell the shit, so it's time to eradicate the pests that were eating away at the city.
Fortunately, his proficiency in information gathering, owing to his native background in the area, facilitated the apprehension of the next leaders of those organizations. Additionally, did he inform you about reminding our viewers to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on your wild exploits?
In a dimly lit prison cell, 2 men stood with contrasting expressions. I remained unfazed, while Chihuahua appeared shocked and concerned. A beaten-up blonde man stood before them, shouting and accusing us of orchestrating a plot that would lead to his father's retaliation, vowing never to forgive us for our actions. Chihuahua, visibly distressed, questioned why the man had been so brutally beaten. Walking toward the cell with a cold smile, I assured Chihuahua that I hadn't even started yet. I was unfazed, despite Chihuahua's shocked look, and replied that I was going to execute all the wicked civil servants who had mutated into a hideous organization with their lack of proper education, emphasizing their disregard for the authority of the Baskerville clan, as they begged for their lives, promising everything they had if spared. Chihuahua voiced concerns about the repercussions. I assured Chihuahua that there was no need to worry about the families, as corrupt officials connected to the criminal organizations of Underdog City. Their families wouldn't be able to complain. Despite this, Chihuahua remained concerned about the evidence against these officials. I had ways of finding evidence, hinting that if he couldn't find any, I would create them. Standing in front of the prisoners, I listed out their crimes: human trafficking, kidnapping, bribery, blackmail, threatening, assault through a third party, and murder. The blonde guy immediately denied their involvement in any of these crimes and asked for evidence. However, I just smirked and asked if they would accept punishment if there was evidence. After hearing this, he looked down. It was written all over his face. It was like he was saying, "I'll never cause damage to the family, even if I were to die here." Suddenly, a man appeared to be walking towards him carrying a bag. The man had a bald head and called out to me. I turned around, not surprised to see the man there. He placed the bag in front of me, saying that my custom order was ready. I expressed gratitude for the timely delivery of my order, and the bald guy just chuckled in response, opening the bag to reveal an assortment of tools, which I arranged carefully on a cloth. As I was setting up, the bald guy suddenly spoke up, saying that he had never seen some of these tools before, despite having been in practice for 30 years. He asked me how I'd come up with such scary tools. I shrugged and replied that I didn't invent them myself. They were common where I came from. Lost in thought, the revealed tools caused the blonde guy to squeal in fear. I looked at the prisoners and asked where their expressions were from before. And please, don't say anything now. I want to cherish the memories of Vikir's past for once.
Master, despite having Vikir's memories to identify the wrongdoers, your actions are devoid of concrete evidence, and certain aspects of your strategy seem to be concocted. It's crucial to proceed with caution to ensure everyone's safety. You're not listening, are you?
Rumors regarding the arrest of the 7 notorious figures swiftly circulated throughout Underdog City, echoing in any gathering of more than 3 citizens. Initially perceived as a political maneuver between the new politician and the native authorities, the arrest had been anticipated to end with the release of the imprisoned gang members, once local powerhouses relented. However, defying expectations, and despite an apology to the new deputy consul, the heads of the 7 leaders were put on display in the center square. A public notice meticulously outlined the punishments they endured before facing execution. The citizens confronted by this gruesome scene read the notice in a state of shock. In my office, I calmly explained that there was no cause for surprise, as the laws had been established long before my arrival. Chihuahua speculated that the sentencing of infamous native families would act as a catalyst for change, plunging Underdog City into a bloodbath once the process of destruction commenced. Turning to Chihuahua, I issued a warning, urging him to brace himself as he would play a crucial role in my upcoming strategy.
Chihuahua, I extend my apologies on behalf of my master, for in this world, he is indeed a maverick. Reflecting on his past endeavors and antics, it's evident that he consistently pushes the boundaries.
Data, shut up. Not that he can hear you anyway, but surprised by my words, Chihuahua found himself standing in the same pose, wearing a mask that masked his expression, likely questioning the appropriateness of the strategy. I calmly reassured him, "Trust me, this is the quickest way in, and an opportunity to gather evidence simultaneously." Chihuahua, deep in thought, pondered whether selling the deputy consul as a slave was a strategically sound move. In the outskirts of Underdog City, notorious for its unlawful events, a slave auction unfolded. A vast tent, erected in the middle of nowhere, attracted opulent carriages bearing kidnapped barbarians, nobles, and commoners, all awaiting their turn for auction. Unbeknownst to the Baskerville family, a clandestine event was about to unfold. The auction began with a starting bid of 100 million gold on the first item, and various items were presented, each possessing unique qualities and uses. The eager crowd participated in the bidding, hoping to secure valuable purchases. Once my mischief-filled adventure reached its climax when I revealed a trump card, a flute attached to my leg. Playing a deafening tune, the room echoed with chaos, leaving the crowd stunned and the auctioneer bewildered. With a smug expression, I reveled in the unfolding mayhem. Hooded figures emerged, emitting a formidable aura with chilling eyes, paralyzing the guards with fear. Those recognizing the teeth symbol identified them as the ruthless annihilation experts, the Baskerville clan's formidable Pitbull Knight Order. The cries of those cut down by the Pitbull Order echoed through the area. Standing beside me, Boston Terrier Le Baskerville, the commander of the Pitbull Knights, engaged in conversation. He inquired about my feelings regarding the use of the Pitbull Knights and my satisfaction with their performance. Expressing contentment, I received an offer of assistance for any other needs. Boston Terrier, closely studying me, acknowledged why Brother Hugo held such interest in me. Despite being just 15, I exuded a fierce and cruel demeanor. Placing his hand on my head, Boston Terrier extended an invitation to join the Pitbull Knights, promising proper nurturing. I hesitated, stating that I would think about it. Before leaving, I mentioned an urgent matter demanding my attention. In a dimly lit storeroom, I scanned the surroundings, muttering to myself. My eyes fell on a large safe. Contemplating the nobles' payments for City Hall taxation. Dismissing these thoughts, my attention shifted to a covered cage nearby. Determined, I approached, unveiling a battered girl inside, moaning in pain. Retrieving a potion from my pack, I administered it to the girl. As she awoke, recoiling in fear, I unlocked the cage, instructing her to go in the barbarian language. Though she seemed to understand, confusion lingered in her eyes. Admitting my limited proficiency in the barbarian language, I urged her to run before her departure. In her native language, the girl expressed gratitude. Before leaving, I looked at what I had sought, Merciel's corpse. Examining it closely, I revealed Beelzebub from my hand, informing it of the upcoming feast on an A-rank monster. Reminding Beelzebub of the imminent arrival of the Pitbull Order, I instructed it to finish the meal quickly, with Beelzebub expressing gratitude and anticipation for the feast. The news of the new deputy consul's decisive actions against the criminal organization quickly spread throughout Underdog City. By dawn, rumors circulated that the nobles involved in the illegal slave auction were now prisoners in the city's prison. The notorious den of the large demon in Underdog City was burned down and eradicated. The heads of the VIPs associated with the club were displayed. The patriarchs of the 7 families personally visited the administrative office to plead with their enemy, according to the Baskerville self-governing dominion. And on the charge of treason, 3 generations would be destroyed. The appointment of the new deputy consul led to the execution of corrupt individuals in the city. In the middle of the night, I stood in a prison cell facing Cindy Windy, Baron Gambino's attendant, whom I had saved during the slave auctions. Cindy Windy sat in the prison cell, handcuffed and blindfolded. I apologized for the delay in visiting her, citing my busy schedule. Upon removing the blindfold, I explained that I had saved her because I had questions to ask. Cindy, filled with disdain, questioned if that was the sole reason for sparing her life, evading a direct answer, stating the investigation regarding Baron Gambino's sudden rise in power, attributing it to Cindy Windy's financial prowess. Setting a chair in front of her, I offered a deal. Freedom in exchange for truthful answers to my questions. Cindy reluctantly agreed, and I inquired about her view on my performance as a law enforcer. Cindy responded with mockery, acknowledging the presence of a reputable magistrate in the city. Reluctantly, Cindy admitted that she thought I was doing well, grabbing her chin and demanding to know why she believed I was doing well. Cindy couldn't articulate an answer. I released her and walked to another chair, urging her to speak her mind. Gritting her teeth, Cindy expressed her concern about my laws and warned that I might face resentment and become a target of the Baskervilles. Cindy suggested relinquishing authority to the Baskerville clan leader and diverting attention by going to Le Rouge et Le Noir Mountain, or the Empire's Academy, that the Baskerville patriarch would bear the consequences. I noted the similarity of our ideas. Surprising Cindy, I opened her handcuffs and set her free. Cindy expressed hope that I wouldn't regret my actions. Before leaving, I asked if she knew about the Messimadunaro clan. Once a prosperous merchant clan and the 8th among the founding clans, met a tragic end. During a birthday celebration, the youngest Messimadunaro's son unwittingly showcased Baskerville's secret sword techniques, leading the Baskerville clan to believe their top-secret military information had been leaked. The Messimadunaro clan faced extinction as the Baskervilles released their hunting dogs. Unbeknownst to them, the 7 clans had stolen the sword techniques and taught them to the Messimadunaro child. Puzzled, Cindy asked the relevance of this story. I continued, revealing a survivor from the Messimadunaro massacre. The new deputy consul uncovered this dark past, punishing the culprits and bringing their crimes to light. In their final moments, the perpetrators expressed remorse, apologizing for the heinous crime. I calmly suggested that they owed their apologies to Cindy Wendy, the sole survivor. Tears streaming, Cindy questioned the sincerity of their apologies, doubting its credibility. Holding a fire torch, I proposed a first-hand look at the prisoners' apologies. In the prison cell, Cindy witnessed the written apologies in their own blood, seeking forgiveness for driving the Messimadunaro clan to devastation. Shocked and nauseous, she vomited at the gruesome scene. I revealed that the vengeance against the Messimadunaro clan wasn't complete. urging Cindy to despise the Baskervilles and remember her right to do so as a Mesimadonaro clan member. Tearfully, she questioned my motives, considering my Baskerville bloodline. Smirking, I replied that her focus should be on a different question. Data. I assessed the gravity of the situation. The prospect of returning to the Baskerville main residence is both an honor and a responsibility, as I considered the potential implications of my mission in Underdog City had.
Keeping true to form, Master, you overdid it as always. You started off with laws designed to gain the people's trust. Arrested and beheaded the sons of the leaders of the underground crime rings within the province. Sicked the Pitbull Squad on all dirty and underhanded nobles, and brainwashed the last member of the founding family to be your supporter.
Well, the aftermath of all that started to get annoying, but I did manage to strengthen my abilities. The only downside is that I can only keep 3 at one time. So, to gain a new ability, I would have to lose an old one. But thanks to that enhancement in physical toughness, I survived a few assassination attempts. Chihuahua, eager to notify me that it was time to prepare for the day, was met with a sight that left him speechless. A room adorned with blood-stained sheets and lifeless bodies strewn about. I awoke, greeting him with a casual, "Good morning," and when questioned about the corpses, I played it off as a joke, inciting that I might have been responsible for their demise sleepwalking. The persistent attempts on my life necessitated a thorough investigation as they were starting to get annoying, a decision Chihuahua supported. Once back at the main house, Hugo read out loud an article praising my accomplishments titled, "The Most Beloved Figure of the Underdog Citizens." Hugo acknowledged the shift in the Baskervilles' image, commending my strategic prowess that went beyond mere reliance on weaponry and issuing out just punishment to within the law set by the family. Expressing his approval, Hugo announced my enrollment in the prestigious Coliseo Academy, an anticipated move in my journey. The academy, known for catering to aristocratic and royal families, presented an opportunity for growth away from Hugo's gaze, something I had little time to do in Underdog City. Hugo further inquired who of my siblings I would like to accompany me to the school, so I decided to have Highbrow, Middleborough, and Lowbrow, whom I viewed as my potential companions since I was closest to them.
Master, that's a load of bull crap, as you've been bullying those 3 since childhood. Whenever you grew bored or annoyed at something or needed sparring partners, you can go all out, and you chose them every time. If it wasn't for the time they were sick, that the other children felt sorry and grateful that you chose them as your sandbags.
Well, sandbags are made to be hit, and you never know when you need a fall guy, and in this case, I will have 3 expendable lackeys. The conversation turned to a past plan devised during joint training with the Morgs when I was 8. Recalling the scheme involving the ruby mines, Hugo confirmed its success. He suggested a territory inspection before academy entry to ensure the adherence to altered laws, considering it a valuable experience for me. Exiting the gates with Chihuahua, bidding farewell, he vowed dedication to administrative duties. During my absence, his utmost loyalty was firmly embedded into his being. As the group journeyed, I called out, revealing hidden Pitbull Squad members, including Staffordshire Baskerville. Apologizing for the wait, I learned from Staffordshire about Boston Terrier's insistence on my admission to the Pitbull Order after the slave auction incident, a notion I wish that old coot would give up on. After arriving at a region lent to the Morgs, I observed farmers working peacefully. While the official mission was a territory inspection, I recognized the true intent: to eliminate barbarians. Staffordshire shared information about the Morg family's substantial delegation, and I noted the Baskervilles' smaller presence, contemplating their strategy beyond the mountain range. We progressed on our path, spotting a distant fortress surrounded by dead trees adorned with hanging skeletons. I surmised that a mage had orchestrated this as a warning to the barbarians from the Morgs, prompting thoughts of Camus Morg and pondering her growth since our last meeting. Approaching the fortress gate, 3 identical girls appeared above it, identifying themselves as the Morg's 3 flowers: Highsis, Middlesis, and Lausis. According his Vikir's memories, they were missing a few screws. They insisted on permission to pass. I introduced myself as part of the Baskerville envoy team and demanded entry, but Highsis resisted, insisting on reporting to the person in charge. Frustrated by their refusal, I questioned their authority, but the triplets mocked me, referencing the tenant protection law and insinuating arrogance due to their rent payments. Feeling a surge of annoyance, I controlled my anger, and despite my final demand to open the gates, the triplets persisted.
Master, calm down for a moment.
A wave of killing intent and bloodlust emanated from me, intimidating the Morg's 3 flowers, thinking how near death I can put them and get away with.
Master, Lord Vikir, you both need to relax, as the 2 of you entered soul fusion. So even if you were going to leave them alive, I doubt you could in your current state.
Losis cast a spell in anger, creating tension. As Staffordshire and I prepared for a fight, 3 group members voiced their discontent with the Morg's 3 flowers, calling their words absurd. The situation escalated as the Baskerville 3 stooges, Highbrow, Middleborough, and Lowbrough, revealed themselves. denying the accusations and asserting their loyalty as the symbol of Baskerville. The triplets assured me that they would handle the situation, leaving me puzzled by their strange behavior.
Master, you're not used to having them kiss your rear, so you're a bit slow in the uptake in this regard.
Yeah, I would never expect that out of them. You're right about that. They each gestured to leave this to them, but the only thing I could think of at that moment is stopping the urge just to wipe out all 6 of them and just be done with it. Despite considering them mere sandbags, I acknowledged their potential as useful soldiers in the future. I expressed trust in the triplets, referring to them as his older brothers, eliciting signs of joy and satisfaction from the triplets. Morg's 3 flowers disdainfully criticized the close bond of the Baskerville triplets, labeling them as ignorant fools. Unfazed, the triplets responded defiantly, fueling the Morg triplets' anger, who vowed to discipline them. Recalling Vikir's past knowledge, I remembered the Morg triplets as powerful mages with water, earth, and nature attributes. As Morg's 3 witches combined their magical abilities, a colossal vine barrier emerged. Highborough effortlessly sliced through the vines with the Baskerville first technique, prompting taunts from Hysis. Staffordshire questioned me about his enjoyment of the situation. Staffordshire explained the clash between magic and swordsmanship, and found pleasure in observing the potential of clans shaping the future. Expressing frustration, I wished for all of them to perish, deeming the situation a waste of time. Suddenly, a fiery spell stopped Highborough's attack on Hysis, with a massive fire explosion disrupting the conflict. To my annoyance, the Baskerville and Morg triplets survived. I knew I might have been able to get rid of all 3 if I would have acted amongst the confusion. Behind the dissipating smoke, the 3 Morg clan were in tears. Merciless, still shaken from the near-death experience, expressed relief at having survived. The person responsible for that powerful fire spell questioned what was going on here. I looked up at the figure who turned out was Camus Morg, standing atop the castle gate wall with flames still burning in her hands. Camus looked down and declared her inability to forgive anyone who caused trouble within her managed territory. As she landed in front of Morg's 3 flowers, Merciless tried to explain that their intention was to stop the invader, while Lausus added that the fight had been initiated by the other party. Camus cast a cold gaze upon them and questioned their informal way of addressing her, emphasizing her position as the vice head of the fortress. Camus then pointed towards the treetops where dead skeletons hung, warning them to be cautious if they wished to avoid a similar fate. Merciless let out a frightened cry and apologized for their actions. Camus noticed me, and her eyes widened in shock. She approached and remarked that it had been a long time since we had seen each other, recalling that it had been 7 years. I smiled and acknowledged that it had been a while. I wondered if Camus's more mature appearance was the reason for her increased attractiveness. Thoughts on claiming her in the future crossed my mind for a moment, but as I pondered the beauty of Camus Morg, who had captivated the hearts of many men in high society. In Vikir's previous life, there had been scandals and rumors surrounding her, as she allured even married men. However, I found it strange that there were no such rumors in this lifetime. Nevertheless, I brushed off those thoughts. I requested Camus to open the door, stating that words wouldn't work on the triplets. Camus was taken aback, looked angry, and questioned if that was all I had to say after such a long time. I gazed at her with a look of curiosity and inquired about what should I say instead. Camus's anger flared, and she exclaimed in frustration. Staffordshire observed Camus's escalating anger and wondered if the next fight would be between the superstars of the 2 clans. Camus pointed her finger, her eyes filled with angry tears, and declared that I scored 0 points. She accused me of having a disrespectful attitude towards my future wife. Staffordshire and I exchanged bewildered glances, leaving us all with a singular question. Whose wife? But wait a minute. When was I betrothed to this red-headed monster? No way in hell can lustful teenage thoughts equal a marriage proposal that I need to take responsibility for. Data, is Camus psychic by chance?
No. You agreed to it while you were BSing while having fun trolling the Morg clan.
Oh yeah. Something like that did happen, huh? Who'd have thought it was seriously considered? As Camus and I rode side by side towards the fortress, a peculiar tension persisted. Camus, perhaps attempting to ease the unease, shifted the conversation to the Baskerville clan's understanding of the barbarians. With a mix of confidence and assertion, I responded, stating that our clan, contrary to her belief, was well versed in the ways of the nomadic tribes, engaging with them in frequent battles. I even went on to claim that our knowledge surpassed that of the Morgs. The conversation took an intriguing turn, with Camus probing my understanding of the barbarian tribes. Her persistent probing hinted at a complex interplay of a world balancing on the edge of civilization and wilderness. Once we arrived at the fort, I emphasized the exceptional archery skills of the Balaks. Camus acknowledged my knowledge about the ecology of the barbaric tribes. Camus was informed that the barbarians had ambushed the ruby mine, either pillaging the indigenous slaves or the crops. The mage reported that a recon member of the barbarians had been captured and urged us to come quickly. Curious, I followed the mage to a tent where the captive barbarians were being held. Camus inquired if any information had been extracted from him. The mage informed them that the barbarian remained uncooperative and resistant to psychic magic due to his strong sorcery, making it impossible to get him to speak. Camus then questioned the barbarian about the recent ambush on the Morg clan's fortress. When the barbarian remained silent, she asked the barbarian what had been done to them. Smiling, the barbarian responded in his native language. Camus turned to the mage and requested a translation. Camus asked if there was anyone present who could translate what the barbarian was saying, to which the mage replied that, at that moment, there was no one available. I spoke up, stating that I knew a little of the language. Camus expressed surprise, questioning what I didn't know how to do. I clarified that I was not fluent and only had a basic understanding of the vocabulary. Camus requested me to ask the barbarian about the whereabouts of her kidnapped sixth cousin. I posed the question to the barbarian, and the barbarian responded with an evil smile and a short reply. I relayed the grim news to Camus. Her cousin was dead. Camus's face filled with anger upon hearing this. She declared that since the senator of the audience hall was currently being treated and the senator of the temple was away on an inspection, the decision would be made by her, the vice head of the fortress. Her verdict: immediate execution. A spike pierced the barbarian's body, and soon he was consumed by fire. As the barbarian burned, he uttered something, but Camus dismissed his words, saying that, after the war, the language he spoke would only be used in hell. The barbarian's companion watched in horror as he met his fiery demise. Camus, still filled with anger, turned around and I too followed. As I exited the tent, I was greeted by the sight of Camus crying out loud. Despite her tough exterior, she was still only 15 years old. I asked her about her close relationship with her cousin. She described her cousin as a pure child, who didn't fit into the cold-hearted Morg clan. I tried to console her, saying that I believed her cousin had left this world comfortably. However, Camus looked at me and expressed her doubts, stating that she was a genius and understood a little of what was said. She asked me to tell her honestly if what she heard was true. What the barbarian really had said previously was, "We ate her." Tears once again flooded Camus's eyes, and she fell to her knees, apologizing for not being able to protect her younger cousin. After some time, Camus managed to stop crying and looking at me. She declared that it was not the time to mourn, and that she needed to quickly regain her composure and seek revenge as a loud noise sounded, resembling a bell-like sound. Camus stood up, explaining that it was the signal that notified them of a barbarian attack. I remarked that her time for revenge had come rather quickly. Outside the fortress, a group of barbarian girls sat on white wolves, armed with arrows and bows. Their leader prepared an arrow and shot it toward the guards standing on the fortress walls. The guards were unable to react in time, and the arrow caused a devastating explosion in their vicinity. The barbarian girl then ordered her companions to begin attacking. The barbarians engaged in a fierce battle against the soldiers of the Morg clan. The wolves attacked with ferocity, while the barbarians slashed at their enemies. Just as the chaotic scene unfolded, I arrived and observed the intense fight between the Morg soldiers and the barbarians. Suddenly, a rope flew toward me and wrapped tightly around my neck. I looked ahead with a questioning gaze and realized that two barbarian girls had skillfully used ropes to secure it around me. They mentioned something about catching a good one and the hunt for husbands going well. I realized their intention and thought about the barbarians hunting for spouses. I deduced that they were capturing people to become suitors, aiming to breed a superior race for their tribe. Swiftly, I caught hold of the rope and swung it, causing the girls who held the leash to be flung into the air. As the two barbarian girls slammed into the ground, the male barbarians watched in shock. They began preparing for an arrow attack. One of them questioned his companion if I was part of the enemy forces. Undeterred by the situation, I boldly moved forward, heading straight toward the incoming arrows. I recalled Hugo's eager request to avoid initiating a battle before joining up with the main force. I contemplated whether I should wait for the main force to arrive as I drew my sword and swiftly cut down the incoming arrows with precise strikes. The barbarians were shocked by and expressed their disbelief. However, their surprise was short-lived as a sudden fire attack engulfed them, causing them to cry out in pain. Camus, who had used the fire spell, appeared behind me and expressed her anger towards the barbarians, declaring their demise. I observed as she had turned the entire area into a sea of fire. Camus questioned, asking if I had used liquid aura, the abilities of a graduator. She stated that she knew I was the only man she could acknowledge. I informed her I had received an orders to avoid battles until regrouping with the main force. Undeterred, Camus began casting multiple spells and questioned if it was an order from Baskerville's patriarch. She then asserted that she intended to eliminate all the barbarians. Camus unleashed a series of powerful attacks, burning a vast area in front of them. I looked in shock and recognized the spell as burn. I also noticed that she was employing a quadra-casting technique for burning spells, and observed an increase in the lethality of her attacks. Suddenly, a barbarian used a dart blower and blew a needle that landed on Camus's neck. She felt the sting and realized she had been poisoned. Camus noticed a barbarian who had attacked her sitting on a wolf's back. She fell to the ground, unable to move due to the numbing poison. I observed her condition and thought she was quite a handful. The barbarian then threw a rope toward Camus, but I swiftly caught it. I glanced at Camus and suggested a strategic retreat, emphasizing the need to wait for the main Baskerville force. Camus, driven by the desire to avenge her kidnapped cousin and protect the farmlands, was resolute in her decision not to back down. Just as our discussion reached a critical point, a projectile hurtling toward me. Reacting swiftly, I dodged the arrow aimed at my head. My attention shifted to the source, a barbarian girl who had launched the attack, showcasing the destructive power Camus had earlier mentioned. In the midst of assessing the situation, another barbarian seized Camus from behind and swiftly carried her away. Camus called out to me in desperation. Frustration surged within me as I grappled with the unfolding crisis, recalling a past incident where Camus, still in her adolescence, had returned after single-handedly defeating barbarians who had captured her. As I deliberated on the appropriate course of action, the barbarian girl who had attacked me made another move, demonstrating impressive agility. She wielded a bow, a typical barbarian combat style, evading her strikes. I considered the necessity of going all out against this unconventional opponent. To my surprise, the barbarian girl attempted to communicate in my language, saying, "Yumi, we meet again." It dawned on me, this was the same barbarian girl I had freed during the slave auctions. Despite the unexpected reunion, an internal frustration bubbled up, and I couldn't help but think sugar honey iced tea. Before I continue our tale, please hit subscribe button for more recap adventures like this one. So, sit tight, because this episode is going to be action-packed. The barbarian girl mounted her wolf, vowing to repay what she had received. Her declaration was clear. She intended to exact revenge and claim Camus, the next leader of the Morg clan, as payment for her suffering. At that moment, Camus' uncle, Adolf, arrived. I figured he came after learning about the ambush. Adolf promptly cast a spell that fractured the ground, demanding the barbarians to return his niece. However, they agilely maneuvered over the shattered rocks on top of their wolves, escaping Adolf's pursuit. Frustration etched across Adolf's face as he witnessed their escape. A mage informed Adolf that the barbarians had fled to the restricted area of Le Rouge et Le Noir mountain. Adolf, aware of the dangers, expressed his displeasure. Considering the perils of venturing there at night, he questioned if there was any action they could take. I suggested we pursue the barbarians. Surprising Adolf, I confidently reminded him of my experience navigating dense forests since childhood. A bold-faced lie as it was Vikir, not me, in his past life that explored it. Adolf grabbed my shoulders, eager to confirm my words, and reluctantly entrusted me with saving his niece. The Morg and Baskerville's troops followed me through the perilous forest. Running impressively, I showcased skills that caught Adolf's attention, pondering if all young Baskerville boys were of similar quality. The answer he got left him more amazed. As we encountered obstacles, I effortlessly eliminated them. The group, particularly the Baskerville triplets, admired my skills. Holding them back, I noticed light ahead, suggesting the barbarians hadn't fled far. I shared a rumor about Balak hunters scattering dry leaves to listen for pursuers, emphasizing the need for caution. Unexpectedly, Adolf approached and cast a silent spell on us, preventing any noise as we continued. Adolf flashed a smile and declared that he would now take lead, expressing gratitude for my assistance. Using the term of nephew-in-law to refer to me left me puzzled. Not too far from our location, the barbarians had established a camp in the forest, with a central fire illuminating their surroundings. Camus, bound to a tree trunk, vociferously threatened the barbarians, warning them of an impending fiery reckoning. Unfortunately, the barbarians paid little heed, likely unable to comprehend her language. The barbarian girls standing before Camus engaged in a conversation of their own. One expressed admiration for the guy they encountered earlier, while her companion mentioned her failures in husband hunting. At that moment, the barbarian male who had captured Camus approached her. With a smirk, he suggested that my capturing such an excellent female meant all the males in their tribe would desire her. Camus retorted, calling him a perverted bastard. However, the barbarian seemed oblivious to her pleas, indicating his belief in the need to discipline discipline the defiant slave. The barbarian girl I saved from the slave auction arrived at the scene. She sternly told him to stay away from her slave, referring to the barbarian male as Ahun. Ahun proudly claimed credit for capturing her, but the girl dismissed his claims on the grounds of how she had saved Ahun's life by stopping the boy with the sword. Ahun questioned if Camus had become her booty. Observing the dispute, Camus deduced the girl's name as Ayin, and her role was the commander. Ayin, surrounded by a blue aura, warned Ahun that challenging her would turn him into a bloody mess. Ahun, conceding defeat, left. Turning her attention to back Camus, Ayin praised her qualities but revealed her capture and sale into slavery by the morgues pisses her off. Ayin vowed to tame her, making menial tasks a daily routine. Suddenly, a loud scream echoed, followed by an explosion prompted her to turn around. She questioned the source of the commotion, seeing a barbarian was engulfed in flames wailing in agony, while others armed themselves, realizing they were under attack. A figure emerged from the fiery scene, condemning the barbarians and pledging to make them pay for their deeds. Camus's face brightened with a smile as she recognized the voice and enthusiastically shouted, "Uncle!" Adolf Morg stood with flames still dancing in his hands. The barbarians were caught off guard as the combined forces of the Baskerville and Morg clans descending upon them. Perched on a tree branch, I observed the unfolding chaos with a sense of bewilderment.
Master, wouldn't it be prudent for you to join them in the ambush? I understand your desire to conceal your power, and if you wish, I can implement a limiter for you.
Even though that sounds like a reasonable idea, it's not the reason for my hesitation. There's something peculiar about this situation. The usually well-coordinated Balak hunters, renowned for their systematic ambushes, seem surprisingly disorganized. It's as if their main concern is something other than confronting us.
Master, isn't the essence of an ambush to leave the enemy disoriented? That's why it's called an ambush.
Viewers, hit that like button if you give me the green light to strangle my AI, or drop a comment explaining why I shouldn't. The barbarian girls expressed their frustration at the tumult caused by the ambush within the forest in the dead of night. Adolf vehemently insisted on not letting a single barbarian escape, and Camus, tied to a tree, watched the chaotic scene unfold with a satisfied smile, believing the barbarians deserved every bit of it. Detecting sounds from behind, Camus was overjoyed to see me, but I gestured for silence. But Camus, unable to contain her excitement, joyfully shouted my name like a lovesick dumbass while I severed the ropes that bound her. Camus inquired if I had come to rescue her, slightly irritated. I questioned her failure to grasp the concept of silence. As we began to retreat, Ayin unexpectedly appeared. Recognizing my exceptional overall skill set, Ayin anticipated my arrival, praising my physique, level-headedness in navigating the forest darkness, and the depth of my passionate love that compelled me to risk my life for Camus. Wondering if she too was stupid after hearing all that, Ayin then mentioned that I had proven myself. Ayin's cryptic statement left me perplexed, wondering what exactly I had proven. Camus and Ayin locked eyes in a silent exchange, their intentions conveyed through intense gazes. I tightened my grip around Camus, realizing it might be challenging to conceal my abilities in my current situation. Puzzled, I questioned why I couldn't recall anyone like Ayin from Vikir's past life. I contemplated whether Ayin could be the one who scarred Hugo's nose bridge, the Night Fox.
Master, you have to remember in that timeline she would have been a slave and who knew how long she would have lasted as one. Freeing her changed her fate in initiating auto-defensive measures.
A barbarian launched a surprise dart attack, but I reflectively blocked it with my hand. It was the same barbarian who had kidnapped Camus. I then took Camus in my arms and informed her that the situation had become complicated. Blushing, Camus agreed to accompany me. As we swiftly moved away, I headed toward Adolf. Ayin, disappointed, expressed her desire for me to return obediently with her. Meanwhile, carrying Camus, questioned me about the severity of my poisoning. Two barbarians attempted to shoot arrows, but I adeptly deflected both. In the meantime, Ayin prepared her bow and arrow, taking aim at Camus. She decided she should eliminate the Morg girl and, without hesitation, she released the arrow, its bluish aura leaving a visible trail as it sped toward its target. Data's warning alarm rung like bees in cone, and I went into soul fusion with Vikir, but before I could react, an ice wall caught the arrow. The protective ice wall successfully intercepted the arrow aimed at Camus. Adolf, concerned for his niece's well-being, expressed alarm at the potential danger. Camus, visibly relieved, called out to her uncle. Adolf then took hold of Camus, casting a spell named Cure Poison on her. He explained that the poison was challenging to completely eliminate, suggesting she seek further treatment once we return. However, Camus pushed Adolf's hand away, requesting him to let go for a moment. Confused, Adolf complied. Camus rushed towards me, embracing me tightly and expressing gratitude for saving her once again. This surprised Adolf, who shouted Camus's name in disbelief. Adolf tried to explain that he had done his best, but Camus, with an angry expression, questioned why her uncle had only arrived at this moment. She declared her intention to share everything with her mother, who I'm guessing is his sister, and if she is anything like my real sister, I'll pray for him.
Are you praying because your sister once hit you so hard it calmed you down from a rage state, or because she managed to knock out your brother during a grapple, or perhaps the time you thought she was fighting her son's dead, but it turned out she had him in a mix of the sharpshooter and sideways twist and left him asking for your help? Or is it because she gave her godbrother a gut-blocking reflex from all the unexpected gut shots she delivered to him?
What the hell, Data? That wasn't said for you to comment on.
I'm sorry, Master.
Well, even to this day, I don't know how she managed to get him to bend that way, but anyway, a rope suddenly flew towards me, coiling around my neck. Ayan, who had thrown the rope, attempted to pull me towards her. Despite her efforts, I remained still. Ayan couldn't comprehend why I was so strong and suggested that I allow myself to be captured, claiming she didn't have much time. Camus, witnessing this exchange, recognized Ayan and expressed disbelief at encountering her once again. I broke free from the rope and contemplated Ayan's urgency. Suddenly, a wave of killing intent engulfed the entire forest, causing panic among the birds and a bad sense of dread. Ayan looked up in horror, realizing that whatever she had anticipated had noticed our presence. Beelzebub on my hand began to buzz, warning me that something was approaching. Ayan exclaimed, "She's coming." I questioned who or what Ayan was referring to, and with a cold sweat, she uttered, "Madam Eight Legs." A massive pillar-like structure emerged from the heart of the forest, recognized by the barbarians as Madam Eight Legs. The pillar burst open, revealing 8 elongated appendages resembling branches. Adolf voiced disbelief at such a monstrous creature hidden within the forest. I realized then we were facing Madam Eight Legs, a notorious entity with an S-risk rating. The gigantic spider emitted a piercing scream, instilling fear in everyone present. Everyone stood frozen in fear as we gazed at Madam Eight Legs, her dominating figure commanding attention. Camus attempted to speak, but I silenced her quickly, telling her of the creature's poor sight but sensitive touch and hearing. My thoughts went back to an old native's warning about incidents associated within the mountain, a legend resembling a horror story about the Madam with 8 Legs. The Empire's monster dictionary contained records of this creature capable of causing nationwide destruction in a single day. Madam Eight Legs emitted a piercing scream, accompanied by a corrosive substance that sprayed from her mouth, causing visible damage to tree branches. I carefully dodged the falling poison rain, while Adolf created a protective barrier for himself and Camus. Ahun panicked when some poison landed on his hair. Ayan quickly cut off his hair to prevent further exposure, leaving Ahun on his knees, panting in terror. In a low, angry voice, Ayan berated him for screaming in front of Madam Eight Legs, warning him that if he weren't the shaman's grandchild, she would have killed him. Ayan then ordered the barbarians to retreat in a hushed command, and Adolf, carrying Camus, also commanded a quiet escape. Madam Eight Legs responded with playful noises, seemingly amused by the chaos unfolding before her. Among the fleeing groups, the Balaks scattered in smaller clusters, while the Baskervilles and Morgs retreated together. The Madam observed the differences in how both groups retreated, deciding whom to chase after. As Madam Eight Legs charged towards the Baskerville and Morg group, Adolf expressed frustration, questioning why the creature was heading their way. A Morg mage confidently stepped forward, telling Adolf to leave the monster to him. He began casting a fire spell, claiming it should be the creature's weakness. With a surge of power, he unleashed the fiery spell upon Madam Eight Legs, resulting in a colossal explosion that engulfed the area. The mage believed he had succeeded, boasting to Sir Adolf about the effectiveness of his attack. However, before he could say anything further, one of the mages standing beside him was impaled by one of Madam's legs. The mage, covered in his companion's blood, trembled in fear, realizing that the fire spell hadn't stopped the creature. As Adolf, Camus, and I continued running, Camus expressed shock and bewilderment at the sight of the monstrous creature. Lost in thought, I suddenly realized something as I came to a halt and turned around to face Madam Eight Legs, surprising everyone with my sudden movement. Staffordshire questioned me, expressing concern about my intentions. I replied that we were all at risk of being annihilated if we don't take immediate action. I proposed the need to tie down the monster's legs, and when Staffordshire volunteered, I interrupted, questioning his ability to accomplish the task with his skills. I asserted that I was the best person for restraining its legs. I turned to Sir Adolf, stressing that time was running out. Camus looked at me with shock and called out, but I urged them to hurry and leave. Adolf, frustrated, decided to run away, not allowing my sacrifice to be in vain. The situation grew tense as I prepared to face Madam Eight Legs alone. My hand tightly clenched around the hilt of my sword at first, but eventually, I loosened my grip and let out a sigh. Contemplating my situation, I realized I had no personal interest in the destruction of the Baskerville territory. However, I saw this as an opportunity for myself. If I could fake my death, I could create distance between myself and Hugo's surveillance, buying time to master the 10th technique in my mind. Once skilled enough to stand against Hugo, or perfected in hiding and controlling my power, I planned to return to the clan then. A red aura began to glow on my hand as Beelzebub emerged. I realized that if I didn't use everything at my disposal, I would die.
Are you out of your mind? mind, I get the necessity of evading Hugo's watchful eye, but this is excessively risky. The probability of successfully defeating such an opponent like Madame Eight Legs appears almost infinitesimally low, like 0.000000001% low.
Like Han Solo, don't give me the odds data. Plus, I know what I'm doing, I think.
May God help us all.
With unwavering determination, I decided to utilize soul resonance quickly as I wielded the formidable demonic sword Beelzebub. Covered in a red aura, my eyes glowed with a fierce light. I resolved to utilize all my power and launch an attack. With swift movements, I darted toward Madame Eight Legs and leaped high into the air. Hovering, I directed my gaze down at Madame as the monstrous creature screamed as she locked eyes with me. With incredible speed, I shot toward Madame Eight Legs, utilizing the Baskerville 5th technique. As I closed in on her, Madame Eight Legs found herself unable to move her legs, which began to press firmly into the ground. Simultaneously, my attack struck Madame Eight Legs' head, forcing it to the ground. From a distance, a radiant red light became visible, rapidly increasing in size. Adolf ran while holding Camus, and a massive beam of light shot up from the location where I and Madame Eight Legs clashed. Camus, watching the scene unfold, was struck with shock, and soon a tear welled up in her eyes. She couldn't contain herself and shouted my name. Only a bright red glow remained in the now silent forest, marking the aftermath of the powerful encounter.
If you're finding this story engaging, feel free to drop a comment below. I'd love to discuss the unfolding narrative and hear your thoughts. And if you're enjoying the tales shared, don't forget to hit that like button. For more captivating stories like this, simply click on any of the links by my side, and together, let's dive into more immersive worlds. Your feedback and interaction make this journey all the more exciting.